So one of the most recommended boards over and over again in my Discord is the Bakeneko60 from CannonKeys. I always kind of lean a little harder into 65s, so I was really stoked when they announced this. The Bakeneko65. Gummy O-ring seems to be the new wave over gasket mount, and people had a lot of positive things to say about the Bak 60. So we're gonna look at the 65 today. We're also gonna compare the sound to a Bak 60 and a very nice Singa Unikorn, which is a much higher end board with similar mounting and considered a grail in the space. Both the 60 and the 65 will be restocked on a frequent rolling basis, so they may not be in stock right now, but they should be on pretty regular intervals. The chassis is casted aluminum alloy versus CNC. This move both lowers costs and allows faster production times. Coatings vary based on color, but this is the dark gray and it's listed as a special powder coat. It's glossy, has little grip to it. It's not like sticky per se, but definitely not smooth like anodizing. You'll also want to carefully review the acceptable quality guidelines in the store because it explains all the little imperfections on the coatings, and my copy has quite a few of those. It's excusable if only because they're totally transparent about it, and they're trying to provide a board at a budget price that feels and sounds like a much more expensive board, so something somewhere has to give, but it's important to know up front and see if that's something you can live with. We do have a unified daughter board here. It sits flush with the lower case edge, but due to the geometry on that top lip, it obscures any visible connector from the top view, which is nice. The coating did give me some trouble when trying to seat all 4 screws. One just didn't want to play ball, and I could only seat it about halfway. Doesn't affect the build though. The plate here is FR4 in black. PCB is black as well, and fairly simple. You do have per key lighting here, but it's important to note that it's all cool white LEDs. There's no RGB or color options. Because they're south-facing sockets, it's not so much for lighting the legends on your caps, it's more for a backlight. You do have brightness control and you can toggle it off. We've got KO hot swap sockets and you're locked into a singular ANSI layout with no options on the hot swap PCB. A solderable PCB is available as extras for 40 bucks and it offers full options for all the common splits and the 7U space bottom row. While that PCB supports ISO, the default plate does not, and there's not currently an option in extras for a plate that does. Both PCB options are QMK and VIA compatible. Included stabilizers are cherry snap-ins, still PCB mounted, but screw-ins are not supported in a couple spots due to the O-ring. You will still need to clip these stems and lube these, but they sound really good. Assembly is really straightforward. You just build out your plate and PCB assembly outside the case, then we're going to use the stretchy O-ring to go around the entire assembly in between both. They also have extras available in 70 and 30, so harder or softer, and while they do affect the sound to a small degree, it's really the bounciness of the typing feel that changes. At purchase, you'll have the option of either the silicone insert or the zinc weight, and they make a big difference to the sound of the board. The zinc weight looks like something you found on the floor of a factory. It's definitely not here for the aesthetics, but it's not visible at all in the final build, so the looks are pretty irrelevant. Then you just connect the JST cable and sink the whole assembly right into the case, stretching that O-ring around the blocker by the arrows. For caps, I'm going to be using the new CannonKeys CXA profile white on black. I picked these up for like 80 bucks. They're like a lower, flatter, sculpted profile. I'm a sucker for legends like this, and there's a comfort groove on the spacebar that look pretty interesting to me as well. A big thing to note on these O-ring builds is that when you're changing caps, if you accidentally pull a switch out of one of the corners, that O-ring snaps in. It requires you to remove the entire assembly and the O-ring to reseat it. Due to the blocking on the 65, we now have 2 new ways to win, with the mod closest to the blocking being the most problematic. Luckily, because this board is just friction mounted, it can be remedied pretty fast and with minimal pain in the assness, unlike the Freebird we just looked at, which required a full case disassembly to fix. All right, so right off the bat, the silicone insert really mutes the sound, and the zinc weight really brings that hollowness. That's emphasized more the further up you go on the hardness scale of the O-rings. That was something Bakeneko60 owners were a little concerned about because there is more space inside the 65, so one would think more hollowness. The silicone to me sounds really muted. I don't think it leaves anything negative to offset. It sounds kind of bland for my taste, but sound is a very subjective thing. The silver lining here is that it is more forgiving to stock switches that may have some negative acoustics. This is the cleanest you can get this board to sound. You could even put some tape on the back of the PCB to reintroduce some character, but I wouldn't worry about putting anything else inside this board to dampen the sound. The zinc weight, I'm just not a fan of. It delivers a hollow sound and adds this metallic resonance that really rubs my ears the wrong way. It increases the volume of the board overall and it amplifies anything negative you may have going on with your switch. To run this weight, you need lubed switches for sure, and some polyfill, and even then, I'm still not a fan. My favorite way to run the board stock is with no insert at all. It does still have that hollowness there, but it's got a lot more character than the silicone, and you get it without the weird metallic timbre of the zinc weight. Of the available O-rings, I like the 30A ring the best, but we're gonna stick with the 50 ring because it's included in the kit. First, we'll try just adding a little polyfill, then we'll tape the PCB as well. I stick by my story on this one. My favorite way to run the board is with no insert at all and just some polyfill in the bottom. A close second is running it with the silicone and the tape, which we'll listen to in just a sec. The tape mod with no insert just sounds like any keyboard with the tape mod. For me, the only reason you'd want to go with the zinc weight is if you just equate weight with quality, as it does add 315 grams, or you're a weirdo and you like the sound of it. I'm kidding. Safe to say, a lot of people really love the sound of the Bakeneko60, and I wanted a comparison, so my man Chaser from the Discord sent his out. This has a taped PCB with lubed and filmed Gap Black inks, and it's wearing EPBT Miami Nights. And one of the big comments I kept hearing about that board is that it was heavily inspired by the Singa Unikorn, a highly sought after grail in the keyboard world. Another Discord member, Caleb, was nice enough to trust me with one of his babies, and it's a truly exceptional piece of kit. This has Boba U4T tactiles, a carbon plate, Dawg V2 stabs, and is wearing GMK Rouge. Soldered build here with a great layout. It's also sporting 2 single U brass key colt caps from Rama and a custom Unikorn enter key that he actually produces himself. So after all those sound tests, there's 3 big takeaways here for me. 1, the Unikorn really is a phenomenal board. The heft, the subtle resonance of the brass weight, the quality of the finish, it's beautiful. Surprisingly, the Bakeneko can get you pretty close in terms of sound, but the Unikorn is in a class of its own. The other big thing is that if you were worried that the 65 wouldn't be able to duplicate the acoustics of the Bakeneko60, you don't have to worry. There is something to be said for the compact look of the 60 with the right layout though. If I were buying, I would probably still go with the 60 over the 65, but I'd go with the solder PCB that gave me more flexibility in the layout because there were aspects of that I really liked on the corner. Sound-wise, it all comes down to either silicone with tape or empty with poly, depending on how much of that hollow sound you want, and no other configuration outside that comes close for me. For that reason, I recommend going with the silicone insert and saving yourself 20 bucks. Looking then at this board at a $145 price point, even if you throw in $20 for shipping, it's still really compelling, even with the scuffed finish and spots. I have to say too that with the mounting system on this board, this is one of the easiest boards I've ever worked on, hands down, and as a reviewer, I really appreciate that. If you're somebody that really likes to tinker and tweak your board, this is a really easy board to work on. Competition in this layout at this price point is really heating up. You could go Q2 or this and be perfectly happy, and it would mostly come down to whether you wanted a knob or slimmer bezels. Both are very flexible sandbox type boards with the Bakeneko edging in price. The Zoom 65 is in the conversation, but for me it falls short of those two when you figure in the shipped price. Zoom 65 would be much more compelling if it were cheaper and available in bare bones. Coming into this year, a big success habit I've tried to develop is having my feet on the ground as soon as the alarm goes off. It's way too easy to just lay in bed and endlessly scroll social feeds. It can burn up a lot of valuable time, and it usually has me starting my day with at least some degree of anxiety. That's a big reason why I use Morning Brew, the sponsor of today's video. It's a totally free daily newsletter delivered right to my inbox Monday through Sunday, and it takes just a few minutes to get me caught up on everything going on in the world that's important to how I operate. You start out with some market news, financials, international stuff, anything going on in the world of tech, etc. It takes me literally 5 minutes to get from top to bottom. If there's something going on that catches my eye and I want to drill down a little more, I can. Whether that's potential issues with the power grid in Texas or the US government discussing releasing their own digital dollar. But even better, if there's not something going on that really grabs my attention, I haven't wasted a bunch of time going down a rabbit hole. Morning Brew's writing is witty, punchy, and most importantly, straight to the point. There's really no reason not to subscribe to Morning Brew. If you're interested in business, finance, or tech, and you value your time, it's completely free and it takes less than 15 seconds to subscribe. Click the link in the description to sign up today. Big thanks to Morning Brew for continuing to support the channel, and thank you so much for your time. Big thanks again to Chaser and Caleb from the Discord for the assist on today's video. If you'd like to check out some more keyboard content, you can do that right here. That's it for today, and I will catch you all in the next one. Stay up.